Hi, everybody. We are here. We're going to talk about some D&D.
Indeed, indeed.
Oh my god. All right. So, in this Dungeons and Dragons discussion for Dungeons and Dialectics, what are we talking about today, Victor?
Well, priorly we talked about minimalist character creation, and that was all about the who rather than the what.
Uh-huh.
Today we're going to discuss mechanicals, a way of looking at the what,
Mm-hmm.
and doing so in a more interesting way than simply looking at a list and picking.
Yeah. Uh,
Talking about a staple, we're talking about randomized tables.
yeah. If there's one thing that I've learned about contemporary players is that they love doing things randomly, quote unquote. I do think that I do sound kind of dour about it, but I do think that there is benefit to the exercise in what we're talking about, which is random character generation tables. I think there is benefit to doing it, and I think it is a really good way to work your improv muscles if you do it in certain ways. It's a good exercise even if you're not playing. You can use a tool of some sort, maybe even the tool Victor created. It's in the description. You can check that out. It's in the description. Like I said, Victor created
Yeah.
just a rough tool on random character generation that can be used with or without the Xanathar's Guide as well. So you can combine both of those to have hours of random table goodness.
Yeah, and if you wonder what we're talking about in Xanathar's guide, start looking at page 61, 62.
Yeah, I believe it's called, or it's chapter 3. The name is something like Your Life or something like that. But you have the page
Name
number. That's the important
Yeah,
part.
this is your life.
There you go. Awesome tool, especially even if you're not using 5e. I think it's still an incredible tool. Um, to all my DMs out there, DMG has a lot of really good random tables for locations, for worlds, all that stuff. So I am a proponent in random tables. But let's talk about characters specific. So the benefits of doing random generation, I think, are you get to create a character that even you are surprised by, which can really embolden you to play something that you wouldn't normally play. It breaks you out of those molds. And if you do it the way that I think is most beneficial, where you roll all these tables and then before even really thinking about anything, maybe 10 minutes of thinking, you go play. Like, this is a really good thing, just like as a, like, you know what, we're going to do a 3 shot. Like, we're going to do 3 sessions. We're all going to create random characters and we're just going to play them in this really small arc. You really learn how to kind of get into the shoes of a character and become that character if you don't have it so heavily pre-planned. And this can be
Yeah.
really good for you to learn how to kind of learn. And I know the term is overused, but immersive gameplay. I do think that this is a really good stepping stone to get into that.
Yeah, and it's very effective at helping you get knocked out of your old biases, like I'm doing a fighter and thus I'm playing a half orc, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this and therefore I'm going to pick that. Like I did a randomized roll previously, and I got a half orc sorcerer, uh, gold dragon, and he was a guild artisan in working in pottery.
Nice.
That's not something I would have just thought
Yeah,
of.
yeah. Then that's the stuff that I like is that inspiration. Then like the best part about it is not actually the results that you're rolling, but it's tying them all together. That stuff that you do in
Yeah.
between. That's the juice of all this system, right? And one of the things that I lament the most about our quote unquote nerd culture is that because we tend to be slightly mathematically inclined. I think you have to be somewhat mathematically inclined to really get into D&D to a certain
Yeah.
degree. You don't have to be good at it, but you have to be, numbers have to be something that you're like familiar with.
Yeah.
And because of that, we have a tendency towards only wanting the highest numbers that we can get. Like, even if you're not like inherently, all these derogatory terms, min maxer, power gamer, all this stuff.
Yeah,
You,
we've talked about those prior. You
yeah,
can look back in our library if you want our thoughts on those.
yeah. But if you know, people tend to want higher numbers. So it's, if you play a sorcerer, you're probably only going to play a half elf. And to me, that inherently And I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, race and class choice makes your character interesting. No, it's what you put into them. But still, man, am I tired of seeing half elf sorcerers? Like, I want, I don't want something different for different sake. But if it comes to the table and you make an interesting character, like honestly, when you say half orc sorcerer Potter, I'm way more interested in the half orc Potter than I am anything else. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think you get the point. It's just I think this gets us out of our tropes that yeah, maybe not every half elf is a paladin or a sorcerer. Maybe some of them actually want to be a wizard, all these other things, or maybe not. Some half orcs want to be rogues, man. They gotta have them, right? Orc
Yeah.
societies, human societies, they gotta have half orc rogues. They have to exist.
Yeah. Yeah. And like if you take the what we talked about priorly about the minimalist character creation, if you make that and you follow the instruction of it being very limited on your nouns and not specifying things too much,
Mm-hmm.
then you can take these answers and then roll some dice and try and tie them together and see what you get.
Ooh, that's spicy.
Because that can get very interesting, because you have a who, and now you get a what, and now you get to figure out how to put them together.
Mm-hmm. And I think right there you could have a really interesting character. If you were doing this for a long-term campaign, like talking about years campaign, I may bend towards like maybe one or two of these results you want to like curate a little bit after you roll it. Just because it still has to be something that you want to be entertained with playing. Don't just pick it because you rolled it.
And you don't need to be the martyr just because it's you don't need to pick the things that are the least optimized just because you want to be, because you can, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I've had players who apply restrictions to themselves that nobody but them is applying, and it wasn't even involved in their character like creation statistics or anything. They just say that no, my character is too tired to cast that spell, even though they have spell slots left.
Yeah, it brings up all kinds of
now that's a sidetrack.
Yeah. But I do think the random character generation has a strength, and I would even advise you to maybe take this for a whirl once or twice without a campaign to play, just to get your mind running about character concepts and really build up that how to bind to what seems two traits that can't be tied together. Like finding ways to do that. One of the best parts about this hobby is you can rationalize anything. Like you can find a way to make anything make sense. You just have to work at it, right? And I think go ahead.
As a GM, if you're like, I want to run a game, but I don't know what I want to run, then just roll on these and tell yourself, this is going to be my villain.
Yeah.
How does these facts make them the villain in this villain? What does this say about the world, and why are they the villain?
And that might be a fun campaign to do in itself, where you say, okay, we're going to do an 8-session campaign where you are all rolling your random characters using all these tools or whatever tools we prefer. While you're doing that, secretly behind the screen, I will be rolling my villain and then making sense of why they are the villain. So everything is built random, with kind of putting the meat in between the skeleton that you've rolled.
Yeah, like this is an absolutely fascinating exercise in just working those character creation muscles. And as a GM, just having done these a couple of times, and you get some ideas that are interesting, and now you have a library of NPCs at hand.
Yep. I would definitely advise taking a look in the description, kind of flipping through what Victor was nice enough to have created. Going in, if you haven't read Chapter 3 in Xanathars, I highly suggest going through that. And I would, special mention to that. If you're playing in any fantasy system, I really think that you should have Xanathars, and you should be using Chapter 3 to very much inform your character's backstory more thoroughly in any character. Even something that you've created yourself, that you've specifically very much curated. That Chapter 3, even rolling and then kind of picking around that after you roll still works really well, because it forces you to answer a lot of questions that I don't think a lot of players when I was making characters, these were questions that I was not asking myself, and I think it gives your DM a lot more information to work with. I would be careful about being too verbose in the information that you're creating. I like to do basically a one page. Here's the quick, like real fast information without here's the chunky information of like who these people are without going into very flowery language. And then later for myself, or if the DM gets super interested in my character, I have all the long form floweriness of what my character backstory is. But I think the chapter 3 is super useful for every character creation, and you really should be thinking about using it.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the whole character creation tables thing for a while, but it was that chapter 3 that really made me think, all right, I need to make something that I can put together with this, because I just feel like I've been working on like the puzzle piece to slot into this entire thing that just came with the open slot, just looking at me going like, go on.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, but on the about the tool thingy I made, this is of course just what I threw together. You can adjust and change this however you want, so long as you figure what kind of a dice you want to go for. Be aware that if you use multiple dice, that will impact the results to be more likely towards the middle. And you can use that, or you can just avoid that by using one large dice. But yeah, you can tweak them however you want. You can just, if your setting doesn't have a race, remove that one and say, okay, if you get that number, you re-roll. Things like that. This is just an example out of an infinite number of possible tables.
Yep. Make it yours, or if you happen to find something online that you prefer using, use that. But as long as you're getting use out of it, that's the important part. That's kind of why we do this. Is it's fun for us to sit here. We're probably gonna sit here and babble about D&D anyways. So we figured, why not have the conversation with all of you? And then if any of you get anything out of this, then cool. It's worth the time.
Yeah, and if you roll something interesting and it inspires you to why those factors fit together, feel free to tell us in the comments.
Yeah, it'd be very cool. Let me hear about your half-orc potters. I'm down. But I think that's all I got. You got anything for them?
No, I think that's about it. Feel free to show off your tables.
Yeah, shortish, Swedish, and Swedish. So there we go. It's character tables. Random is sometimes good. You probably thought I'd never say that. All right.
All right.
Thank you so much. See you all later.